Hi, I'm Carl with Horizon Solutions, and I'm laughing already. This is going to be a good night. Thanks for joining us for Resource Stage. This is one of our Resource Stage conversations. Back during COVID times, during the pandemic, we started doing these things called conversations. And this was me online talking to people about their jobs and talking to people about the industry. And it was really great. And I thought that maybe that was going to be something we were just going to do during the pandemic. And then we decided that no, it was good, and we would try to continue to do that. So tonight we are joined by Jacquie, and Jacquie has an interesting background in the industry, and so we thought that it would be cool to chat. I met Jacquie first. You were at York University, I think.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of respect for her, and so I thought it would be really cool to have Jacquie come in and we would chat a little bit. So thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me. That's very kind that you have respect for me. Thank you so
I
much.
do.
Yeah, I
I
have respect for you.
absolutely
It's
do.
mutual. It's mutual.
Well, that's good. Thank you. So why don't we just jump right into things?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So I guess the first question is, why did you get into this crazy industry? You know, it's funny. Okay, so I'm going to start off by this. I've already asked a question. I'm already interrupting you. So last year, went to Montreal to the the Expo Scene event in Montreal, which is a CITT event. We're going to talk all about CITT later. I'm jumping ahead, but I took my son with me.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And so I took him with me, and I took him around to all the booths, and people said, "Oh, do you have your son here because you're going to get him into the industry?" And I said, "No, I've got him here so he can understand there's a bunch of crazy people in this industry, and you
Yes.
don't want to work in this industry because it's nuts," which isn't totally true. But why did you get into this industry?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like so many of us, I was involved in theater as a young age. So even from elementary school, we were talking to your technical staff about I have a very loud voice, like just in general. And so that always kind of got me in trouble when I was in school. But then when it came to doing a school play or a reading, guess who they called? It was me, right? So always involved in that way in elementary school. And then in high school, and was always on the stage in some, whether it was a talking part or not. And then in high school, I was still involved in drama, took drama all 4 years, and again, was more on the performance side of the stage. And until about halfway through, and it was very clear that my acting skills were not great. So that was made very, because like, okay, yeah, don't have the chops. But then was sort of introduced to directing actually in my last year. And at that point, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my career. And I was interested in journalism.
Right.
And I didn't know you could actually have a career in technical arts and backstage and theater until my drama teacher told me that you could.
Right.
Stephanie Hinton, still talk to her sometimes as well.
It's funny how those people, right? They stick with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
I
cool.
actually don't think I'd be sitting here today if it wasn't for Stephanie Hinton.
That's awesome.
For introducing me that you could do this as a career.
Right.
So that was really where it started. And then I went to York University, and here we are now. So yeah. And when I got to York, which was interesting, at the time you had to apply to get in and then go for an interview and do a little talk about why you want to be in this industry. And at the time I thought I wanted to go into directing. By the time I got into my first year, that's when I sort of understood that you could get your hands on some tools a bit more. And I really liked that. So then I went into production.
That's interesting. So I don't know that I realized that you went to school at York.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, yeah.
No, I don't know
York
that I
is my
understood
alma
that.
mater.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so so we're gonna come full circle
Yeah.
in a minute. Okay,
Yes.
cool. So so you went to York. You were there. You decided that you're gonna shift things a little bit, and then where did you go to work from there?
So I actually worked at York while I was in school when Burton Auditorium was still operational.
Right.
And I worked in Joe Green as well.
Yep.
But I started actually as like an usher and a front of house manager.
Oh, nice.
And then worked my way up to being in the technical booth and as a technician. While I was still, I think maybe in my third or fourth year, I worked at Wonderland in the summer
the Wonderhand,
Yes,
Wonderland dues
yes.
that people have to do.
Yes,
Yes.
and so I worked at Wonderland. I did two summers there. One with the event staff, where I worked at. It was called Kingswood at the time.
Yes. Yes.
And then I did another summer as the head electrician in their main theater at the time.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and then I've
That's the
kind of
one
been all over.
That's the one across from where the water stuff happens, I think, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So did that and then just like gigged around, the city, worked at Vaughan City Playhouse, worked at various other theaters doing various other things in the start of my career.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's interesting you say that because sometimes you talk to young people who are trying to get into the industry and they say, yeah, I want to, I want to start hanging lights or I want to start doing design work. And sometimes they don't realize that, you have to be an usher first. You
Yes.
have to get involved with front of house first. You have to understand how all those pieces fit together. And then you can make your way through it.
Yeah, totally. And that was definitely something that, at the time, the people that were running the theater were very clear. It's like, learn this so that when you get to here, you understand what that person is doing
Right.
and how that ties into the whole operation of a live performance,
Right.
right? And that's really helpful. And it's been really helpful for me in my career in general because I sort of understand what's going on from a box office level right up to, a facilities operational level,
Right.
which is nice. Yeah,
Right.
definitely helpful.
Yeah, that's cool. So, okay, so you did that for a little bit. You
Yep.
floated around for
Oh, yeah, for a while.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
But that's the way the industry works.
Yeah.
Is that so often people need to do that
Yes.
until you get to that point where you can actually jump into or find that first gig that somebody's going to say, "Yes, I want to hire you for, for this many hours or for whatever."
100%.
Did you do like kind of the summer stock tour, that kind of thing, or where did you go?
Yeah, actually, thank you. It's like it feels like it was forever ago. It's like, yeah, and yet I feel like I'm 20.
You and me both.
Yeah. So I did do a summer just as I graduated from York at Gananoque at the Thousand Islands
Oh,
Playhouse
yeah,
at
yeah.
the Springer Theater.
Right.
And that was a whole super fun summer as well, and met a lot of people there and had a lot of fun. It's such a beautiful space. Like, I'd close up the theater at night and you'd look out and there's the lake and it's just like, it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it was a very interesting summer. And I worked there right up until the end of their season, obviously because I wasn't in school at the time.
Yeah.
So I have to say, Gananoque in the fall is a very different place than Gananoque in the summer, at least back then. At least back then. I don't
Right.
know now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you for that reminder. I actually almost forgot about that.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's cool. So where did you go from there?
From Springer, I think I floated for a while. I had a few short contract gigs here and there, worked with the different companies just because that's the gig. Production manager, stage manager, technical director, and did a bunch of contract work, and then landed in a venue for a while, like an event venue,
Right.
and then saw the job posting for YPT.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that's where I applied to be the head electrician at Young People's Theater.
Very cool. So this is interesting. So you float around for a little bit. You do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You gain that understanding of professional theater in a variety of different angles. But then at some point in time, somebody says you're qualified to be the head electrician, head of lighting in this theater. You've been on the different sides of that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But how do you think? Like, I'm thinking through how somebody says I want to get to that point. How do you think that they made that decision and said, you know what, Jackie's gonna be able to do this. This is gonna be great, because YPT is a pretty interesting place to work, and it's kind of unique.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's interesting is that I was actually, that's right, I was also at Leah Poslin's for a while,
Okay.
which actually has gotten, I think, renovated or torn down and rebuilt as a different space.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I went for the interview at YPT, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, like I just about like did not do well halfway through the interview because I wanted the job so badly that
Yeah.
my nerves got in the way of me giving actually good answers. As I was told later, like somewhere halfway through the interview, I sort of saved myself and it became very clear that like I could do the job.
Right.
But it's true that in that interview, I actually didn't know the two people that were interviewing me. They didn't know a lot about me, and they definitely took a leap, absolutely,
Yeah.
on me, I think. And at the time, it was a contract position for 1 year to cover off for a parental leave.
Right.
So potentially for them, if it didn't work out, it was only a year,
Sure,
right? And then
sure.
for me, it was an opportunity to put my feet in the water of a producing house, which at that time I didn't have that much experience with because I had been running so many like rental houses. So it was a definite new setting for me, 100%. So yeah, 100%. I think they took a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Did you like that change?
I loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I definitely loved it. It was different. I liked the consistency at the time of being able to like know that we were going to do a show run for X amount of days or weeks. And it was a bit of a leap of faith for me too, because at the time it was only a 1 year contract. So I didn't really know, after a year what was going to happen. Was I, going to stay? Was I going to go? So I really just took a leap of faith, but I know I really wanted to be in that kind of producing house
Right.
setting. And yeah, it was really great. I think for me, Young People's Theater is a very interesting, it was a really, oh, I'm just going to go back one slide. There we go. It was what I found there was family
Right.
in a lot of ways. So what was supposed to be a 1 year contract ended up being, because the person decided to stay on parental leave,
Right.
ended up being a nearly 5 year
Right.
stint.
Right.
And in a producing house as a head, and anyone that knows that, you're working with your other heads, your other colleagues, and your other departments
Yeah.
very closely. So there was definitely family there for me. Yeah, I spent more time there than I did at home a lot of the time. Yeah, as anyone would know. Yeah.
It's interesting how this industry works, where there's so many different aspects that you can be involved with different parts. And when you're in a producing theater, there is the opening night, and then there's each night the doors are going to open, and then at some point in time there's closing night, and then you're moving on to the next one. But there's a different flow and a different vibe than if it's the band rolls in, do a show, the band rolls out, the next band, that kind of a thing. Like
Yes.
it's a different thing because of the way that you're building up to it.
100%.
And you're building up to it, hopefully, as a strong team as you're putting that together, right?
Yes.
And when that works, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all of us would work so closely. I could, look and do a look to one of my colleagues, and they would know exactly what I was thinking, or they
Right.
would know.
In a good way or a bad way?
Depending on the
Yeah,
situation.
okay,
Depending
okay,
on the
fair enough.
situation, something could be happening on the deck, and we just give each other that look, and you're like, okay, But even like, you go to lift a riser, or you go to,
Yeah.
or you're in an install situation where you're hanging lights, or you're ringing out the room. Not that I was doing the ringing out the room part,
Sure.
but you could know what the next move of your colleague was before, and help and be there for them. And it would be the same in the reciprocal way, right?
Yep.
And especially when you're lifting and moving stuff. It's like we got to a point where you didn't have to go 1, 2, 3. We just knew what each other's, like you just kind of knew
Yeah.
because you were spending 80 hours a week together during tech or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then you were running show together, and you were doing that 6 days a week, so there's just a bond there that forms. It just is. I don't know how else to explain it. And my colleagues at the time, and while I was there, were amazing, and were just so great. So it helps. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you were there for just over 4 years.
Yeah. Just about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what did you do from there?
Then I went to St. Michael's College School.
Okay.
And I was there for a few years as their technical director.
Okay.
Yep. All
So-
boys school.
So that's a very different
Yep.
shift.
Yep.
So going from a producing theater
Mm-hmm.
that is fairly well known around
Yeah.
to going to a private school.
Yep.
Very different.
Very different. Yeah. Yes. Very different.
Maybe before we jump past, we should. You've got a couple of pictures here from from young people?
Yeah, this is just a fun little project. I don't know if my colleagues from YPT or Report are watching, but this was a show we did apparently in 2013. I had to look this up
Okay.
because I thought it was like 2 days ago, but apparently not. It's called Blue Planet, and this is actually a really good example of something where you have multiple departments working on one piece.
Right.
Obviously, so it was a branch, and so it was off stage like this, and it would just sort of tilt in like
Right.
this, and the butterflies were lit up. And then they were sort of sucked up with a vacuum. It's kids' theater. Keep in mind, this is children's theater. So it's sucked up with a vacuum. And as they got sucked up, all the butterflies would sort of die out.
Right.
And so what was interesting here is we had to wire sections of butterflies in a very specific way based on the lighting design. And so this was a project that took quite a lot of time in the shop, and soldering cable, and every butterfly each had like a diode, and then they were all wired to this lovely wiring diagram here. And I believe, if I recall, it was all just hand dimmered I don't think we tied it into the console, but I could be wrong. I don't remember that.
Right.
Anyway, it's just a very interesting, like some of the cool things that you can do when you have time and you're working in a producing house and you get to work with carp and set and props and lighting, and it all comes together to build one piece
Right.
of a show that was like on stage for, I don't know, 2 minutes, right? Like such is life.
But
Yeah.
it's interesting because I've had these kinds of conversations with with lighting people and sound people and different people about how sometimes it's the little things that you spend all this time on and you're building that's the kind of stuff where it's not the moving lights, or it's not the the specific microphone doing this specific thing. It's these little things that are different and unique for that specific show.
100%.
cool.
And like with kids, they just love it. Like they eat it up,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like, yeah, kids theater is fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry. So then
All
you were off to
St. Mike's.
St. Mike's.
For a few years. Yep. And I was the technical director there. And again, very interesting, very different environment, all boys school, but did some really fun shows there too, and learned a lot about, like in most institutions, whether secondary or post-secondary, it's more, you're not just working on the theater, you're also helping live stream events, or you're doing other events within the school that need technical help.
Right.
So that was helped build my skills as well there, for
Right.
sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. We did some fun shows, Adam's Family, and
Nice.
good times. Yeah, it was good.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were working there, it's a school, so I'm assuming, maybe I'm assuming too much. Are you working all with students, or is there a professional staff as well, or how does that work?
So yeah, I mean, you're dealing with like so it was me, and then there was obviously some theater staff,
Yep.
and then part-time technicians that we had on a roster that would come in and support when we needed.
Right.
And then you're also dealing with like the faculty of the school. And then at the time, the theater was a rental place when school ended. So then in
Right.
June-ish, yeah, we would have dance season come in,
Of
right?
course.
And then there would be some rentals in between when we were doing shows for the school.
Right.
Yeah. So you were working, it's kind of like you're working with students and you're helping them understand the theater world, and you're helping them do a show. And then flip side, you could be the next day doing like a gala event for the
Right.
school, right? So you're kind of always changing that mindset a little bit of how you're interacting with people and what you're teaching them or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was good.
Do you have a couple photos from there too?
I actually don't.
You
I
don't?
yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I had trouble finding some without students, but
Right.
yeah.
And
So
that's fair.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So where did you go from there?
So then from there, I got an opportunity to go to St. Andrews College.
Right.
And this was a great opportunity. It was very different. I'm going to explain the spaces in a second. And they built this new space. And so
Right.
I came in not while they were building it. It had just finished kind of being built. And then I came in to be the technical director and theater coordinator. So this space is really interesting because if you look at the photos, in the one photo, you're standing in the auditorium with the red seats facing the Worth Theater.
Yes.
And in the other photo, you're standing on the Worth stage and you're looking at Ketchum Auditorium. Where you see that pros, you
Yeah.
can see the proscenium there. there was a wall that came down that could divide the two spaces so that you could have, on the one side in the auditorium, you could do like a school event, or like a class could do a presentation in there, and there's that side of the wall was a projection screen.
Right.
And then on the other side, you could be doing a rehearsal, provided you weren't like blasting music,
Right.
which was pretty cool. And then when we did shows, you would, in the Worth, you would close that wall, and there was a gala lift that had seating, and so it was in the round.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it was a very cool space, and then the seats in the Worth. So you've got the gala lift here, and the seats would retract out, and then on the sides, the seats would also retract in and then come out for performances.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And when it was open, like you see in the photo here, you could seat at the time the entire school body between the two spaces, between the auditorium and the seats in the Worth Theater.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it was very,
interesting.
very cool space. Very interesting.
I'm assuming it probably added a lot of dynamic for audio and for lighting and how to deal with that kind of thing. It was
Super complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the time when I first arrived there, there was no they weren't sure how they were going to operate the theater, so there wasn't a sound system quite placed in yet into
Wow.
the Worth. So we had to have those conversations about that, and we brought in a company to hang a sound system in there that worked, because you're in the round and you've got the drama teacher and the director and producer really wanted to make sure we did musicals.
Yes.
So when you're in the round and you've got 25 people in lavaliers, you've
Yeah.
got to really make sure that that's tuned well,
For sure.
which is not my forte. So obviously I called in some help to get that done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Very. We did a lot of crazy shows there, and that's also where we took. When I was at St. Andrews College, is also where we were able to do a Christmas show at Roy Thompson Hall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which they still do. At least I believe that they still do that every year.
That's neat.
And I was there for the inaugural Andrian Christmas at the time. That's what it was titled, and that was a real privilege, is to like walk on the RTH stage and be like, okay, we're gonna do a really cool show here today.
That's really neat.
Yeah, it was very cool.
That's great. Cool. And again, so you were working with staff as well as with students to
And
make that kind of thing.
rentals.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't really open it up to rentals until after the first year and a half of being operational, just to see how it could work, because it was so new to the school. But yeah, again, very much working. And the same idea of like, yes, my home base was that theater, but like St. Michael's, it was also like I would go and set up a sound system on the field, or I would go and do something in the atrium if there was a gala event, or like for their gala events I went and helped run some PowerPoint and some video stuff. So it's when you work in those institutions, it's never just about the one space, it's about the all-encompassing events that the school does. You're a part of that team. You're not just in the theater, which I think is really important for people to understand.
Right.
You're not just a theater person. You're there to support the school.
Right. And people look at you that way because it's technical stuff. They're just like, oh yeah, that's technical stuff. So we're going to have Jackie take care of that because it's technical and she'll know what to do.
Exactly. And sometimes I didn't know what to do. Like, honestly, I was like, I may not have known what to do. So then that's when you go like, I'm going to call a friend. I'm gonna call a friend.
But you know where to call a friend, and you know how it should go. So it's that level. Yeah. Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was a really interesting space for sure.
Cool. So you were there for how many years?
Again, only a couple years. Yeah, just a couple years, because then I saw the posting at York and was like, oh, I think I could probably do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like some people are like, oh, your resume, you kind of jump around a lot. But I feel like in the industry, that's not uncommon.
It's not. And I think that if you are, like, there's different kinds of, the industry, like every industry, needs different kinds of people and different types of personalities and that sort of thing. And when you have a certain leadership sort of a bent, then it makes sense that you're kind of moving through in different places.
Yeah.
But you were at York for a while.
Yeah, I was 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did you start there? That was
Well, that's a good question. No, I think I started there in 2018 or 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, York was, again, like all of these spaces were kind of have a place in my heart, right? Like everybody, all my colleagues are amazing. I don't have anything bad to say about anybody. Like it's,
That's
I
not what
never,
this is
yeah,
about tonight.
yeah. It's not, it's never a negative experience.
Yeah.
They're always learning experience and what you take forward into your next position that you learn for the good or the bad.
Yes.
I think that that's really important. So they all hold a sort of a special place. York holds a special place because it's my alma mater. So,
Yeah.
which was so interesting to walk back in the building that didn't exist when I was a student.
Sure. Sure.
So
Yep.
didn't, that wasn't there. The Sandra Fair and Yvonne Fitzon and the Tribute Communities Recital Hall.
That was good. You did well.
Yeah, thanks.
Because and I say that if I say that because everybody I know just refers to the buildings as their acronyms, and they don't. They
Yeah,
don't
the
usually,
FFT or the TCRH.
Yes,
Yeah, we were just
exactly.
talking about, I can't do the acronyms because no one's going to know what we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and what was really interesting about is like, I was in the same room as some of my professors that taught me, which is a little bit mind blowing. You're like, oh, I sat in a class with you, and now I'm a colleague
Yeah.
that we're sitting in the same room together.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like mind blowing for me.
Yeah. Very cool spaces there.
100%. Super. I mean, I was very lucky. My title was manager of performance facilities.
Right.
So I was able to manage the two main stages, which, as previously mentioned, is the Sandra Fair and Yvonne Fitzon and the Tribute Communities Recital Hall. And as you can see, there's some photos here of the Sandra Fair and Yvonne Fitzon, and in two very different perspectives. So we used to do things like dinners on the stage, which became a very popular theme at one point, which was good, but also a bit hard to juggle around, a bunch of other things.
Yes.
Yeah, both spaces are amazing, actually. They're beautiful spaces. The Sandra Fair, I'm just going to shorten the name. The Sandra Fair has this amazing wing space, as you know, on the one side that, it's a teaching. So you've got all this space that you would never see on one side, and it's a fly house, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that part of what I think I've always thought is really cool about this space is that the stage could be any stage anywhere because it's the right size, right? Like it fits, it's a full size stage with full flies and with, as you said, off stage right, backstage has got tons of space. There's lots of things that can be done there that are really, really nicely. But the seating is so intimate.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because of the kind of space that it is. It's so if you go to see a performance there, you can see a full produced show, but on a stage you're sitting very close. Very close.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people think it's like a 500 seat theater, and
Yeah.
it's not. It's like a 300 and something seat theater. And it is intimate, and it is just such a beautiful space. And it's your typical, proscenium house, and it's where the dance department would do their main shows in the theater department. And obviously, again, we would rent out the space, and we were busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and York has, and then there was a pandemic.
Yes, yes. Well, and the space continues to be busy. I mean, we're very privileged to be able to do work in that space fairly regularly, and it continues to be busy all the time. I know trying to get any time to schedule work in the building is not always easy. We're scheduling some work there right now into the summer because of how things are so busy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you're always juggling, like, when you're in either a secondary or post-secondary institution, you're juggling the needs of the school, the academics, the teaching part of it, with the rental part of it, where you need to create some sort of revenue stream, just because you can't have a, sitting dark for all of June or all of July is just not great for the theater, for the books, right? So you're always balancing that. So it's always busy because you're like academic and rentals and academic and, and then maintenance, which is its own thing that you need to make sure that you build time in for sure.
One of the things we're seeing with some of our post-secondary clientele now is that they're recognizing that, yes, this is a revenue stream, but it's a community thing where we need people coming into our space to be able to see it, because that's part of what we're using to put York University in front of those students who might be dancing here when they're 12 years old,
That's right.
but might be thinking about where they're going to university one day.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how all of these different pieces fit together now.
Yeah, it's absolutely true, and all of that has to balance. And and sometimes, like as the manager, that those decisions, and rightfully so, weren't always mine to make. There's
Right.
I was part of a faculty, and if decisions were made, then that's fine. Then we move forward. As long as I knew where I was going, then that was fine. But it's true, all of that is part of the balance of running a space when you're part of an institution.
So can we talk about that for just a second? This is a cool photo. That's the recital hall, right?
Yeah, that's the Trivia Communities Recital Hall.
Yeah, which is interesting because if you don't know the space, it's not red.
No.
It is actually the exact opposite of this. The space is kind of a creamy white sort of a color, almost got a bit of a yellow tinge to it, right?
Yeah, I think this is for light up your theaters. I think
right.
this is where I pulled these photos from. Yeah, it's an all white space. The whole back, that whole back is an acoustical shell,
Yeah.
and so you really don't need a lot of amplification. That's the whole point of the space, and it really is again a very intimate. Like it's this very intimate space, and people would love it for things like the President's Town Hall. When
Right.
we were doing things like that, and it was really popular. And obviously, the music department was in there. That's obviously
And it's got a unique look to it.
100%.
And the FFT, the other space, sorry, the other, which incidentally is
We
funny
would call
because
the red space.
we often call it the red space, exactly.
It's the red
in
seats,
the
yeah.
in the red space. It does feel, it's a very cool space, but it feels like a theater.
Yes.
Where this space, the recital hall, has such a unique feel to it. It's really neat.
Yeah, and a lot of people that would walk in that didn't know about it would say that. You're like, this feels so unique. It's so different. It's just, yeah. And, it would be a really good, people would walk in and be just like amazed, right? And then you'd show them the FFT the Sandra Fair.
Yes.
And, the juxtaposition of the two, and they're right beside each other, was always this like moment of like, whoa, these are so different, but both so amazing.
Yeah.
And so that was always a fun part of my job, when I got to be like, and this is one space and this is the other, and they're both very different, but they're both very cool.
They are.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. Okay, so let's
Sorry,
circle.
you wanted to leave
no,
that.
no,
Yeah,
that's okay.
yeah.
So let's circle back to the part we're talking about, balance. Because whether you're talking about the work that you did where you were in Gananoque or that kind of thing, or if you're talking about the work that you did at YPT or at the two schools and then at York, different people have different ideas as to what's most important. And you are in very different positions,
Yeah.
right? And again, like, some people are going to be worried about, well, what kind of art are we creating? And some people are going to be worried about, are we making money? And, and there's all these different pieces to it. You've worked in spaces where it's a union environment, and you've worked in spaces that aren't. So how do you balance that? How do you figure out how to balance that? Because nothing about what you've said involved, and I took 6 years of management or something like that, right? So how do you do that?
Sometimes attacked. Well, most of the time attacked.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
most of the time attacked. And other times, sometimes just being just being honest. Like I just don't think that I can balance that for X reason.
Right.
It's a balance. Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. Because there are moments where you do sort of have to put your foot down and be like, we can't do this thing because we literally have an entire set on the stage.
Right.
And I understand that this person may be a priority and you want to get them up there, but I don't know how to juggle that, or it may not be possible because it's actually an unsafe work environment at this point.
Right.
And then there are moments where you have to, if you're getting that and you have to balance, and you're like, okay, well, we could make this work. We just have to do these things. And if those things are within the budget, and then you make them go. There are many times where I sort of had to juggle and compromise. It's like, I can give you a little bit of this but that's probably all I can do at this moment. And some of it was also about how far in advance someone was asking, to do some things. In terms of priorities of the schools or the institutions, those were just always ongoing conversations that we would have daily about, what is the priority of the spaces and how do we manage that.
Right.
At St. Andrews College, I distinctly remember saying, like, don't rent it for a year.
Right.
Just don't. Because you don't know yet how you're going to use this space. You have no idea because it's your first full year with this venue, and you don't understand yet how it's going to be part of the culture of the school.
Right.
So give yourself at least a year. Looking back on that, I probably should have said 2 years. I actually think like 2 years would have been better.
Right.
But that was a really important moment where I was like, and thankfully the school agreed, and they were like, yeah, let us all just settle for a minute, and understand the space and how it can be of use to us and how we want to use it. And they used it like a lot,
Yeah.
right? Same with, York, not so much that we had to have those, like, obviously it was up and running, but we had to tweak a lot of the time when we were doing the scheduling about what is the priority, right? And
Right.
and how do we fit that in? But with trying my voice to be there in terms of like, please make sure that we shut down for maintenance. We need to make sure we build this in. Can we make sure we do this, or this? And sometimes it is a money decision, right? Like, this client is coming in, they're willing, if it's a film,
Yep. Yep.
that's for us, for a bottom line, was always really good. So, can we juggle that film even if it's during, as a school year? What does that mean? Is it possible? And if yes, then we can go ahead. And sometimes it wasn't. Like, sometimes, depending on what the ask was from the film, the answer was no, because we were just too busy with academics, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a hard question to answer. I think when you're in it, you just kind of have to deal with it. I think for me, working in so many rental houses, I just have this toolbox, and I was just picking out tools from the toolbox to
Right.
help me cope. I don't think I always did it right. For sure not. We're all humans.
Yeah, sure.
Right? We make mistakes.
Sure.
I think I did the best I could with at the times that I was given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because you have 3 different venues that each one of those, you are in a spot where you've got multiple people who
Yes.
have their own, they have their own desires, they have their own needs, they've got their own agendas, and that's not necessarily in a bad way. It's just
No.
they've got curriculum they're trying to put out, they're trying to produce shows, whatever it might be, and trying to meet that challenge of balancing that. That's a lot of work. And then on top of that, we're not even talking about the how to budget that.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying about, saying let's not be open for a year has a ton of wisdom to it, in part because it strikes me that if they had said, yeah, let's just rent it out, then it could have just become a rental space to an extent. Like almost that would have potentially dictated what that space became.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of wisdom in that. That's smart.
Well, again, learning from other people, right? Like
Right.
that I had talked to, like, I can't obviously take that, but at the time I was thankful because just the amount of, like, even though the building had been built at St. Andrews College, the amount of stuff, as anybody knows, in a venue that was built, and you come in, there were just things that didn't work, or,
Yeah,
like
sure.
you go plug in a fogger, or thinking that all your plugs are on a different, circuit, and then you find out, oh no, and now you've blown everything, and
Right.
and then I don't know where the circuit breaker is. I've been here for 2 months, and I gotta find it, So
Right.
like, I was thankful for my own mental health that I had said that, because I was like, if we had to throw a rental onto this, it would have been a disaster for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
No, that's cool. So, okay. So you've worked in the industry for a number of years.
I have.
If you were talking to a young person who's thinking about getting into the industry, and they're saying, "This is fun. I do this at high school. This is cool." What would you say to them to either encourage them, discourage them, whatever it might be? But how would you encourage them, or what would you say would be maybe some of the priorities that they should be thinking about as they're considering a position in this industry?
Well, first, I would encourage them to come into the dark side, as you like to say. Come into the
Yes.
dark side, come run live events and entertainment with us, and come
Sure.
do theater. We need the skill. I think that, we definitely need people coming into the industry. I think as someone coming in, a lot of the hard skills can be taught on the job.
Right.
Yes, obviously people want to know you can do certain things, but at the end of the day, my advice would be to work on your soft skills. Your interview skills, your resume writing skills, your interpersonal skills, because at the end of the day, for me, it's been very apparent, especially in my new position, is that those connections that you made 15 years ago are coming back now in a way that are really great. And so, an understanding that every person that you meet can be a connection for you later on. Obviously, you try not to burn bridges. Sometimes you have to, and I understand that there are extenuating circumstances every time
Sure.
to everything. But I think that has really been something I really tried not to do. Is like, don't burn bridges. Don't burn bridges.
Right.
That's really important. So interpersonal skills, soft skills. If you're interested in, coming into the arts, into the technical arts, go to your community theater, see if they need help. Put your hands on some of the gear that's there. Reach out to places like this, like Horizon. Like, can I come to a resource stage? Can I, put my hands on some of your demos? There's lots of people like Horizon and other, businesses that are doing free training, YouTube, all of that, if they're really interested in terms of learning some of the lingo and understanding, and maybe just go to a show.
Yeah.
Right? Like, like if you've
Yeah.
never been to a show, but you're interested in technical stuff and, you like to put your hands on stuff, go to a show
Yeah.
and just check it out and understand what it's like to be in a space with other humans enjoying something collectively live.
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is a really special thing.
Right.
Because when you're in a theater full of people, or a concert, or an immersive experience, it's going to be different every time you go with a different audience. The cast is always going to be a little bit different reacting to that. No show is the same. Even though we aim for it to be the same, it really isn't. There's
Yep.
always a different vibe.
Yeah.
And I think that's the really special thing. And so you need to feel that and be in a space to understand that. So those would be my advice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think as many people end up in live events as much as they used to, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's
no.
there's the thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people who end up seeing Taylor Swift, but then they don't necessarily go to any other shows or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's-
Go
it's-
check out, go to your community theater. Go to see a show at a theater that's local to you, or if you're in Toronto, to the myriad of theaters. I understand that maybe pricing, but a lot of them have youth pricing and under 30, it's very
Yep.
much more accessible that way, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also so many of the theaters that we work with now have the opportunity to go backstage
Yes.
and see things, and some of them actually advertise that and make that very apparent that you can do that. And some of them, sometimes it's just a matter of making a phone call or two, or interacting with some people and saying, hey, do you think it's possible? I'm thinking about getting in the industry, and so many people in this industry are so excited to be
Yes.
able to show what they're doing, and like butterflies,
Yeah.
right? Like there's so many things, right, where people love to be able to show off the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too, is that don't be shy to reach out to people. Like you said, I think there's so many people, I agree. That's part of the greatest thing about this industry, is that some of the people that work in the industry, or not some, the majority, almost all of them, want to share knowledge. They want to bring up the next generation. They want to be mentors. They want to help. They're the most kind, talented people that you could ever work with. It's one of the best things about being in this industry, I think, is the humans that are powering the industry itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I agree. So where do you see, now you're a person who's part of CITT, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but CITT being an organization that is across the country, where do you see the opportunities within this industry for for young people or for new people wanting to get into this industry? Do you see, you know, are there specific things where you can say, you know what, this is where we really need people, or, you know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's, again, like, there's a lot of answers to that. The AV side is, I think, exploding in a lot of ways.
When you say AV side, you mean like the uh, like boardrooms and that sort of thing? Is that
I
what you're
kind of
talking
mean
about?
like
Or
the whole gambit, like
okay,
like boardrooms, live streaming,
right?
right? Like all like a kind of like a little bit of everything there.
Yes,
Is like there's is very is exploding right now and is very popular, and there's people needed in
yes,
that industry. But that includes like install work and project management, like those folks as well, are also very needed right now. But just in general, the sort of technical side of the arts
yeah,
really does just need more skilled labor
right,
at this point. Like, and I don't mean that means like anybody can just, you know what I mean? But it's true that there is a lack of labor in the industry right now. And so I think if you're up and coming, whether in university or high school, and you're thinking about it, there are jobs to be had for sure. But if you don't want to be a technician, but you want to be a project manager, you want to be an installer, you want to be a designer of a system. There's all these different opportunities that are available to folks. And so I think for me, when I look at the jobs being on the CITT job board as they come
yeah,
in,
yeah,
it really varies right now. Like there's a lot of opportunity in very different areas, for sure. And I think, again, employers, the technology is changing so quickly, and I'm going to speak here very generally, and somebody like who's an employer can totally disagree with me.
I,
What do you,
we'll see. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.
but employers are willing to, because the technology is changing so quickly, employers are willing to do some of that training on the job,
Right.
because you can't, if you're graduating, it's hard to keep up. What they really want, is people that are taking initiative, that have that have good soft skills,
Yep.
because a lot of the hard skills, if you have a base, they can teach on the job and
Yes.
may be willing to do.
Yes.
So, yeah.
It's interesting because I do agree. I think that's absolutely true that finding good people is different than finding knowledgeable people.
Yes.
And there are definitely some people who are knowledgeable who want to get into this industry who aren't necessarily the people that would fit in at Horizon,
Right.
right? And that's not to say that we don't have knowledgeable people, because we do,
Yeah.
but it's the balance between the two.
Yes.
I also do think that the industry is different than maybe when I started to get into the industry a number of years ago, where if I wanted to learn anything, then I really did need to work a lot of shows and talk to a lot of people, and over the lunch break ask a lot of questions and that sort of thing, and work on shows for free and that sort of thing. But there's also so many tools for people who want to get into the industry. So many tools today where they can take a Dante level 1 training and start to understand how these pieces start to fit together,
100%.
so that they can see it. They don't necessarily need to be an expert in it,
No.
but at least to be able to say, okay, I understand some of the edges of the sandbox.
That's right.
Right? That's taking that initiative,
Yes.
I think, is a big thing. And it means a lot when you see that on a resume and somebody can speak to that. I've taken some level 1 Dante. I understand something about NDI when you're talking about that AV side,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
To be
Yeah.
able to do that. That's important. Rather than somebody who just says, yeah, I helped my uncle DJ.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. That's great. And you might be really good at that. But to be able to see kind of the bigger picture of what the industry looks like.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the other thing is also like almost what you're just saying, playing off of that, a wide scope and scale of skill, right? So
Right.
like, be open. My advice would also be open to not just being a lighting technician, but also learning about sound, but also learning about set, but also learning about live streaming, but also learning about, broadcast. Like all of these different things tie in so that you have so you have a wide range, and then when you kind of do a couple things, you can figure out what's the thing you really want to hone in on versus saying I'm just doing this. I think that limits you,
Yep.
for sure, which is problematic. It's better just open up your mind and be open to all these different avenues, and then figure out after you've worked it what you want to do. And just going back to like roles that are important. The other thing, it just hit me, is, there's right now in the industry, we're really lacking production managers and technical directors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a skill set that there's schooling for it, but it also requires it requires putting in the time and understanding and listening and paying attention
And learning on the job, which is hard
Yeah.
in those high pressure situations that, people are in when we're running live events. Like it's, it can be tricky.
Right.
But again, it's about people who've been in the industry
Yeah.
trying to lift those people up so that they can learn and be skilled enough to do those things eventually.
We're at Horizon we're pretty fortunate. We find that we like to be able to work with people, and we like the relationship side of that. So the opportunity to to be given that that privilege to be able to work with somebody who's a little bit new as a TD or a production manager, and to say to them, hey, this is what we've done in some other theaters. These kinds of things work. To be able to work with them, it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's really great to have that kind of relationship and to be able to build on that. And I'm thinking just off the top of my head, some of the production managers I know and some of the TDs I know who they were younger, and we started those conversations, and we were younger too. But we grew together in
Yeah.
some of these areas and learnt how to work together. And it's cool. It's good to be able to build on those things. And you already mentioned this, I think, a couple of times, that those relationships.
Oh, they're key.
Right?
Yeah, they're key, because when you're stuck and you're stuck on stage, you need an answer because your piece of gear is not working, and you have a relationship with the rental place or with the supplier.
Yep.
You can call that. It's like calling a friend in that moment is really important when you have those good relationships, or calling an actual friend
Yeah.
who had that similar thing, or a connection is such an important part of the industry.
And this industry is pretty small.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
being able to build together.
Especially, yeah, exactly. Canada's not the most populous country in the world, as we all know.
No.
And then when you get into live entertainment, that pool shrinks down to like an even smaller pool. And so it's, again, it's like, it shouldn't be shocking, but sometimes it still surprises me that like somebody you worked with way over in Vancouver, you see
Yes.
over in Newfoundland, because they're designing a show, right?
Yes.
You could just bump into each other so often in this industry in Canada, for sure.
That's true. Okay, so let's talk about CITT.
Yep,
So you left York University,
you did.
and you now have this new position
Yep.
of big shiny boss. Is that right? Is that what the business card actually says?
Yes, it says big shiny boss.
Big shiny
Yep,
boss.
I never said. I don't know how to translate that en français.
Okay. All right. So executive director?
Yes.
Okay. So executive director of the Canadian Institute of Theatre Technologies.
Institut Canadien des Technologies Scénographiques.
Thank you, because I was not going to get that right.
No problem.
Okay. So CITT and ICTS.
ICTS. Yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So what is CITT?
So CITT is the Canadian Institute for Theatre Technology. It is a national not-for-profit that's member-based. And we have been in existence since 1990.
Okay.
For some folks that don't know, there is a U.S.-based USITT. We were born out of that.
Right.
And we were used to be a section of USITT, and we're obviously our own entity now, and have been since 1990. We're a member-based organization, and we help promote, with our members, we do training and workshops, networking for all of our members, and we, help support the live performing and entertainment industry as well. In terms of We have a lot of partnerships with other organizations nationally and internationally as well. So we have a voice in a lot of those stages.
Right.
And we help even create, I sit on a couple of councils, or other CITT, ICTS members sit on the technical standards program that helps write ANSI standards for the industry.
Right.
So we're varying. We have lots of things going on in the organization. We represent a diverse range of people within the industry: suppliers, manufacturers, tradespeople, architects, consultants. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you and I first started talking about CITT and your position there and that
Yeah.
kind of thing, you started correcting me fairly quickly and saying it's not just CITT, it is ICTS
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Why is that important?
Okay, so the ICTS part is important because in 2003, we became officially a bilingual national not-for-profit.
Right.
Because of our Quebec section came into, we have regionals, so Quebec became a regional of CITT ECTS.
Right.
It's important because as a national organization, it should be a national organization. We
Yeah.
encompass everybody, including our friends in Quebec.
Yes.
And that's why it's important. And we are I am not, the organization is a fully bilingual organization, in
Yes.
part thanks to our coordination assistant Marie Lar, who is based in Montreal and is fully bilingual, and our Quebec section that's very helpful in helping us do some translation. I, of course, am just learning French. I've been in French classes for just about over a year,
Okay.
so I'm learning it, but it's difficult. But it's really important because Quebec has its own unique identity in the best way, and especially in the arts and live entertainment, they're very well known for some of the amazing things that they do there.
Yep.
And having that and having us as a whole nation is really lovely, and it's super important. A lot of people forget the ECTS in our name,
Yep.
and so it's always CITT / ICTS.
Right. And that makes sense. And I think that
Yeah.
if you, whether you look at the industry from a business point of view, if you do look at the industry from a business point of view, Quebec, Montreal is extremely important
Yes.
to our industry. There's
Yes.
so many of the distributors
Oh,
are there, so
amazing.
many, there's
Yeah.
manufacturers there, that
Yes.
kind of thing, and they work out of Montreal and other areas of Quebec.
Yes.
So that's super important for sure. And but the other side is that if you spend time in any of the theaters and if you see shows in Quebec, it's very different.
Very.
Like it's a very unique thing, and the way that they do things is interesting, and it's cool. It's a cool part of Canada and Canadian theater.
Yeah, and they're very much part of that fabric. And
Yes.
it's important to have them as part of CITT, and make sure that people understand how important they are to the industry, like you said, as part of the fabric. And they do some, like the folks that are manufacturers there and have suppliers that are there, they're doing, or that are artists there, technical
Right.
artists, are doing some very innovative stuff. Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
do some really amazing things. And so it's amazing that I get to talk to those folks and interact with them, all in my job right now, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some companies in Quebec that are doing things on the world stage for sure, and they've got some really unique pieces that they're getting involved with. On the video side, as just one example, there's
Totally.
some really, really interesting things
Yeah.
coming out of Quebec
Yes.
for sure.
100%.
So, okay, so
100%.
you've kind of given us the overview of CITT. Who is CITT for? Like,
Oh, I'm gonna go
like,
backwards.
and I guess
Okay.
what I mean by that is that when I was first introduced to the organization, it was explained to me like, well, we have a lot of members that are post-secondary education and theaters, and it was post-secondary education and professional theaters, and that's kind of where it landed. Where is CITT today? Who's CITT today for?
Yeah, it's for professionals working in the industry. So, but that encompasses a lot of people. So that
Yeah.
could be TDs, PMs, even stage managers, scenic artists, technicians, freelance, in any sort of technical aspect. Corporations, right? We have a lot of corporate members. We have other not-for-profits that are members or that we're partners with as well. Educational institutions, festivals as well. Like we have quite a few festivals that are part of our membership.
Okay.
And students, like students, we want to have students as part of that as well. So it's a wide spectrum for sure, and obviously, like we have venues as part of that as
Right.
well. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a very wide range, which is actually great because it means there's a lot of great voices as part of the membership.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are some of the this is one of those, I'm leading you with a question thing. So tell us some of the resources and things that the things that CITT offers and some of the things that happen that are beneficial to people.
Yeah, so on our website, we have a resource hub that's open to everybody, and where you can find resources on health and safety and things like that are industry related. And then we, obviously for our membership, we have a very specific resource and video library that you can get behind on your membership wall. We sit on a lot, like I said, on a lot of sort of councils and stuff, and so being able to do that means that we can bring those resources to our membership and to the industry at large.
Right.
And of course, we run some pretty major conferences and events. So there's Rendezvous and there's Expo Sen. Rendezvous is our national conference that happens in a different city every year.
Right.
And Expo Sen is our trade show that is in Montreal.
Right.
And that happens every year as well, in and around the April-ish mark. Yeah.
Right.
And those events bring industry professionals into the room for our members, and also allow members to network and learn and take sessions and get their hands on equipment and talk to people that are leading the industry right now, and in general. And the other important part of CITT, ICTS is that we have regional sections. So there's an Ontario section, BC, Alberta, Quebec, and the prairies. And those are really important because if you're a member of CITT, you automatically become a member of that regional section that you live in.
Yep.
So if you live in Quebec, you're part of the Quebec section.
Yep.
And those are really important because the sections are really our grassroots into that local area and that local community of artists, of technical artists. And those sections as well run their own events and training. So
Yep.
if you're in Alberta and you want to do some training, you could go to the Alberta section website. Like you go to our website, the national office, and you could click on the Alberta section, and you could see what they're doing locally.
Right.
They're, for instance, they've done some QLab training, or, CITT Ontario just did their Connect event where
Right.
they did a bunch of sessions. The regional sections are really important because national can hold these larger events, but the regional sections really hone into that local, what is it that grassroots needs are on the ground, that national, because we're running a national organization,
Yes.
can't do as well as the regionals.
Well, and the reality is that not everybody is going to have the budget to be able to go to Rendezvous or to go to Expo Scene, depending on what is happening, and depending on what their position is.
Exactly.
But the ability to, within the Ontario section, within the BC section, wherever you are, to be able to network with the other theaters or with the other schools, the other professionals in that area is important.
Yeah, exactly. And they do so many of those tours and that, job fairs for students or for people looking for jobs. They connect in with their local suppliers, and national supports, in terms of sharing those events and where we can. And then at the national office, we hold these major events, Expo San and Rendezvous, and we're also starting to do monthly sort of Zoom informational sessions, whether that's just about an organization that we've partnered with that maybe not a lot of people know about, and they've got something cool going on that we want to talk about. Or like, for instance, on Thursday, yes, it's like, what day is it today? So on Thursday, we're doing a Zoom session on navigating your career in the technical arts. So we have a panel lined up, and we're going to talk a little bit about their experiences in the technical arts and how, taxes,
Yeah.
things, things like that. Maybe not the most fun things, but the important things. Maybe that you don't learn in school all the time.
I was going to say, I mean, it's important stuff. It's not maybe the most exciting, but it's important to be able to get an opportunity to go through that.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's fairly new, and so I'm excited about Thursday's panel. And
Yeah.
some of those are, you have to go to our website, but that one is open to everybody. It's not just a members only. Some of those sessions are just members only, but that's just information you would find on our website. And obviously I'm gonna do a plug right now and say,
No, go for it.
Expo Sen is coming up in April, 16 and 17. It's looking to be a very, really great event this year. We will have some training available. Details are to come. So if you're interested, sign up for our newsletter, connect in and see what's going on in Montreal, because it will be a trade show with some training as well, which will be great.
And you guys are pretty active on socials, so if somebody
Yes.
wants to just follow you there, then you can see some of the different things that are going on. And if people want to check that out, there's things like pictures from last year, or there's the layout of the floor, so you can see which kind of manufacturers showed up last year and who's going to be there this year, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we even have
It's
the floor
good.
plan up now
Do
for
you?
this
Okay.
year. Yeah,
Great.
I mean, it's constantly in flux right now.
Sure.
We're nearly sold out, so
awesome.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
So it's looking to be a really great show. I'm super excited, and this will be my full sort of cycle through the whole process, which is also really nice.
Right.
And then after that, we go right into rendezvous planning, which will be in Halifax this year from August 12th to the 16th.
So so
13 to 16.
Rendezvous is interesting because it does float around from section to section, right?
Yeah.
So Halifax this year, it's been a long time since it was in Halifax.
Yeah.
Last year was in
Saskatoon.
Saskatoon,
Yeah.
and so it floats around a little bit, and it's good because of that. It sometimes means that not everybody gets there, but people have an opportunity that they maybe every few years get a chance to participate if they can't travel.
Yeah, it's kind of, you gotta share the love, right? Yeah,
yep.
you can't always be over on the side. You kind of gotta share the love a little bit, and that's why Rendezvous does that. When people ask me what's the difference between Expo Sen in Montreal and Rendezvous, it's like, one is a trade show. Expo Sen is a trade show with some educational sessions and maybe some training. Rendezvous is a conference with a trade show, right? So we
Right.
run more sessions and more education, and it's a much longer. It's 4 or 5 days versus 2 days of a trade show.
So we have lots of people who participate in resource stage events and watch online and that kind of thing, who aren't part of professional theaters. They aren't part of
Yep.
universities or schools, that kind of thing. What aspects of CITT do you think are interesting to them? What between Rendezvous and Expo Scene, what are some pieces that you think might be interesting for them?
Yeah, I think it depends on where they're at, like what they're interested in. So, like with Expo Sen, if you want to come and see a lot of manufacturers, suppliers in the same room and see a lot of gear and get your hands on it,
Yeah.
Expo Sen is the right place to be.
Yep.
Plus, it's in Montreal, and it's a great city. So
sure.
to come, hang out in Montreal for a couple of days too.
Yep.
So I think for me, if you really want to talk to or if you're about to do like a major reno for like, maybe you're not involved in something, but you want to talk to someone about how to, make your boardroom a better, more interactive space when you're having meetings,
Yep.
with virtually. Expo Sen would be a really good place to sort of do that, because those folks are on the floor, they're there, and we have tech talks that happen as well where they talk about their expertise.
Yep.
And Rendezvous, those folks are still there, but they're also doing a lot more educational, more hands-on training, and it's really, in some ways, I would say grassroots, right? Like we're having people, we run our sessions, and the sessions could be it runs the gamut, right? What our sessions are for Rendezvous, but it's a lot more of connecting with membership, connecting within the industry. You don't have to be a member to come to either of these events. You can totally come if you're not a member.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say for me, that's, if you're more interested in having membership, grassroots conversations, about the industry, that might be where Rendezvous. And if you really want to do a lot more engaging conversations about very specific topics, rendezvous, because you're in those sessions or
Yes.
you're in that training room with folks.
Right.
Yeah.
And practical sense to an extent, you have to get yourself to Montreal for Exposin, but there's no cost if you're just going to attend.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, that's right.
And
It's free.
Rendezvous, it is a conference that there's a paid ticket to get there because of the conference and what's happening in the conference and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the conference is also like I said, like, so Exposan is 2 days. The conference is like 4 days, and it's like, morning, and then there's always an activity, social stuff that's happening as well, opening soiree, swag bingo.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Those types of things. So there's also that social aspect where you get to, when I was saying connections and interpersonal connections are really there.
I'm pretty sure some people are able to, they find themselves a job. Or sometimes
yeah,
people walk away from a job afterwards,
exactly. And like I said, like both of those events and a lot of our Zoom sessions right now are open to everybody. You don't have to be a member. You just the price point may vary if you're not a member.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I think the guys can put up here some of the different ways to connect with CITT, ICTS, and find more information.
Yeah.
If they're looking for that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's
Thanks
been
for
fun.
having me. Yeah, this has been good.
It is good, and
Yeah.
it's good to we've known each other for a while, and there's things that you told me tonight. I had no idea that's what you. that's some of the things
Full
you
of
did. So
surprises.
that's great. That's very cool. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks to everybody for watching. It's been fun.
Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is the part where I am supposed to try to remember all these different things that I'm supposed to talk about as we wrap up for tonight. We've got a number of things that I need to try to remember. For starters, this is the beginning of our. We're starting with this one. Okay, great. So this is our 20th year of doing resource stage events and seminars. And because it's our 20th year, we have decided that we are going to have a prize draw at the end of the year in December. And we're going to give away a pair of Genelec monitors. So if you would like to get your name into the draw to win a pair of these monitors, then you can scan the QR code that's on the screen. And if you're watching online, that QR code is only good until midnight tonight, and then it's going to not work. So if you're watching this in 3 weeks from now, you're out of luck. But you can scan that QR code and you can sign up. And we are doing this for every resource stage event for the year. So whether you show up online or you show up in person, then you can sign up. You can sign up multiple times for one time per event, but multiple times throughout the year. And we're giving away this cool set of speakers. And there'll be more information about that throughout the year. Okay, Jake, what's my next one? Next one, Resource Stage Conference. We just actually confirmed this today, this afternoon, that we are going to be holding a Resource Stage Conference that is going to be on a Saturday, and we are taking over the Grand Theatre here in London for June the 21st. Thank you, Jordan. June the 21st, we will be taking over the Grand Theatre and having a good time there, where we will have manufacturers involved showing off their wares, not to nearly the same scale or excitement as Exposin, but it'll be fun. And we will have sessions going on throughout the day where you'll be able to learn all kinds of interesting things. Okay, next one. This is the most asked about event that we have ever done. And we are asked about this kind of thing all the time. Can we do a live audio mixing seminar? And we always kind of push it off a little bit, because doing this kind of thing takes a fair amount of work to be able to pull it off properly. On Tuesday, February 22nd, we will be going to... Sorry, why did I say Tuesday? Why does it say Tuesday? On Saturday, February 22nd, we will be at Forest City Community Church East, the East Campus in London, and we will have a band. We will have a lot of different things going on. This is a paid event, and everybody is welcome. There will be more information coming very, very soon. And this is a great opportunity if you or your volunteers are looking for further training on how to mix a live band, whether that's for your church or for your school or for your garage band. This will be advantageous. It's going to be good, and we expect to have a lot of people there. Okay, when are we up? Oh, right. Okay, so to celebrate the 20 years, we are offering different kinds of discounts throughout the year for the month. And this month, we are offering professional grade microphone cables for 20% off. They are a brand that we sell every single day. We're not allowed to tell you what brand it is because that gets us in trouble if we tell you online. If you want to know what brand it is and what microphone cables, you can give us a call or send us an email and we will help you out and get you a quote. Boy, there's a lot of things to talk about tonight. Thanks, Jordan. And so it's 20% off this professional microphone grade, professional grade microphone cable. Boy, oh boy, it's time to go home. Okay, is that it? Did I get through everything? Oh, one more. Okay, next month. Boy, why didn't we break these up? Okay, so next month, Resource Stage. We did this last year. It went really well. We had a lot of good comments on this. This Resource Stage next month will be online only, and we did this last year where we had different staff talk about interesting things that they think are cool coming up in 2025, either things that were just released in the last couple of weeks or things that they saw 2 years ago but they still think are cool. So we will be shooting these videos over the next couple of weeks, and they will all go live on the second Tuesday of February. All right. Is that it, Jordan? Is there anything else? That's it. Okay. Jake's going back to me, so we must be done. All right. Thank you very much for joining us online. Jackie, thank you very much for coming and hanging out with us tonight. It's been good.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, and the camera keeps flipping. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you at the next Resource Stage event.